Jonathan, I know that the executives got on a conference call on Friday to try to ease some of the concerns among investors here about just how much of an impact that this impasse could have on their results. What did you learn?
So what we learned is that this is not a run-of-the-mill carriage dispute. Charter, I think, is very serious about walking away from Disney if they can't get better terms. That would be, I think, sort of an historic event for the industry. It could have really big repercussions for the balance of power between content and distribution going forward. Charter's basically reached a point, Romaine, where the cost of pushing through another increase on their customers is roughly equal to the cost of dropping Disney content and losing subscribers. And so it's just not worth it for them to push through the increase that Disney's demanding.
I was going through one of your recent notes, Jonathan, and I thought that was interesting. I hadn't really thought about the trade-off here. In the old days, it just seems like the cable companies just kind of accepted the fact that this is what it costs, and if you want to keep consumers, particularly those that are really passionate about things like sports or whatever other content Disney has out there, then you just pay it. But you're saying we've now reached some sort of inflection point. Are we going to see this play out with some of the other cable companies as well?
Romaine, I think we are. So content has been king for 20 years. The content companies have had a monopoly on an asset that the distributors have needed to keep subscribers on their platform. And over the course of the last half a decade, most of that content is available in lots of other places. And so the benefit to a distributor of being the one to be able to provide that content has really gone down. The one exception here is ESPN. But what Charter said is of all Disney content, only 25% of their customers watch it. And only a half of that 25% are what they call sort of passionate consumers of the content. So those are probably the ESPN consumers. And what Disney's demanding is a price increase for the vast majority of Charter's base for the benefit of content that's going to 12.5% of Charter's base. And that's why they're on the line and they're not willing to take it this time. I think it has big consequences for all future content negotiations that Charter has, but also for the rest of the industry. This was the tough one. The most difficult content company to stand up to is Disney. The only company that could really do it is Charter, and they've done it. And from here, I just think it gets easier for all future content negotiations for everybody.
So, Jonathan, wrapping that all together, looking at your research, you posed the question before the call, is this the tipping point? Now that we're past the call and you've had a few days to digest, I'll ask you that question. Is this the tipping point?
So we don't know yet. What Charter was willing to offer Disney was more generous than what I think they should have offered Disney. It seems like the executives were in discussions over the weekend. They're still working hard at finding a resolution that keeps Disney on Charter systems at a cost that's palatable to Charter. And so this might not be the critical tipping point, but this is the first big standoff like this where it seems like there's a decent chance that we just end up not being able to get Disney content on Charter's platform going forward. And if that happens, I think we'll look back at this as a tipping point.
And Jonathan, let's game this out. How do you see this ending? Does a side have to blink here, or could we actually see it end up just like this, where neither side blinks?
So there's a decent chance that neither side blinks. I think Disney has an assessment of the damage that pulling content from Charter's platforms will do to Charter, and they think that Charter needs to blink. Charter's done the analysis and decided that they're indifferent. Rather than take Disney's offer, they're happy to take the hit from lost subscribers. And so they're saying they're not going to blink. And so this is a classic impasse. In the past, these impasses have always been resolved through negotiation, but this might be the one that isn't. And if it turns out to be the one that isn't, we'll look back at this moment at a critical shift in the power dynamics within the industry.